I've been having some thoughts about the documentary that I saw yesterday. I didn't see the whole documentary. I don't think I saw, I mean, I saw, I don't even know, like not even an hour of it. It's about an hour and a half, I think, is what it was. It just got to be too difficult. I mean, watching the YouTube just wasn't, which is kind of not working after a while. And I don't know if maybe it's just because it gets slower, the longer that you watch something that's longer like that. I don't know. I honestly couldn't say. Anyway, I've been having some thoughts about it, and they kind of all tie into the same thing, interestingly. Ritual abuse. Okay, so ritual abuse, let's see. I think probably there are some people who are just really sadistic, and somehow these ended up being very sadistic people, or they learned later in life that to enjoy sadism. And so I think that's there. I think that's something that's part of human nature that ought to be addressed, because I think it can happen. It's just people are able to be a lot of things, and many of those things are not good. Right, so I think there's that side of it. I think, and also in terms of ritual abuse, sexual abuse, and then physical, other types of physical abuse, and then sort of this very sort of like tying them up, hitting them, that sort of thing, and then killing them. I think there's probably a side of it that's not, that some of it is about control, right? Intimidation, that sort of thing. I think also there's probably a part of it which has to do with, like, I think it's this, and there's a psychological phenomenon sort of described. I'm not sure the word is projection. It may be projection. And there may be another term for it. I think it probably has something to do with also homosexuality not being allowed in the culture, not being allowed for people who certainly not being allowed for people who really want to gain political power, that sort of thing, financial power, and I think part of it is I think when you have that, something that's so much a part of society, so much part of culture, you don't just have people who are homosexual or whatever it is that's stigmatized, that is stigmatized and shouldn't be. You don't just have them chafing under the burden of the stigma. You also have them experiencing their own feelings of self-hatred. I think that's always a serious and very sad and very difficult part of a big social stigma that people who are affected by the stigma always have to deal with. And I think it caused a lot of internal conflict. So I think probably what happens in those situations, if you're gonna set aside people who are sadistic just for the sake of being sadistic, because I think those people exist. I think what you probably have is a process over and over again of a man who's homosexual, or is bisexual and has not felt that he was free to pursue the relationships he would like to have with men. So he goes. It basically is a ritual. There's a reason for it, right? And there's not a good reason, but it's something. It says there's a psychological imperative to. Well, of course, there's the physical imperative, and even in a way, the emotional imperative. Of course, that's very truncated. To have sex with another male, right? So he does that, and then of course there is this psychological imperative that is from this social stigma. Which he's experiencing all the time anyway. He's experiencing it internally to punish, destroy, erase not only the evidence of his homosexuality, but the thing itself from him, right? And so there was an example there was actually a boy in the documentary who was describing a situation in which someone had drugged him and to the point of unconsciousness, and then when he woke up, the guy had him tied up, and just had a whip and was like threatening him the whole time, right? And then he was later found killed. This kid it's really, really sad. I mean, the whole thing is so sad. But I think my thought would be they're trying to men who do that, men who engage in that. Are trying to punish themselves, right? They're trying to like literally just destroy the part of themselves that's homosexual, which they never will be able to do, right? Which is why even just one encounter like that is never enough for them, right? Because along with the moments when, okay, they're feeling like, okay, well, I've got to have sex now. They have the sex, and then the psychological imperative is to try to just not only eradicate the evidence of it and intimidate the person so they don't talk, or kill the person so they don't talk, but also to have this it's actually an embodiment. The person whom they're torturing is the embodiment of, of course they don't see the person as a person, because if you treat a person that way, you don't see them as a person in the first place. And so also it doesn't take much for that person to sort of take on your victim, right? To take on in your own mind, whether you realize it or not, that person is the physical manifestation of your homosexuality, which is the thing that you need to inflict pain on and kill if you can, right? Probably kill if you can. So you could probably, even if you were able to get psychological profiles of all the men who have ever engaged in this sort of behavior, I would imagine there would probably be a correlation between the men who are the most brutal, right, and most likely to kill their victims, and I would think those would be the men who are the least able to reconcile their own feelings of homosexuality with their outer life, what they think of themselves in other ways. I wouldn't be surprised if they were brought up in homes where there was a really rigid expectation of what they were going to be like, at least what they were going to be like in their love lives, that kind of thing. Although, of course, it's terribly sad. This really has nothing to do with love, right? It's which you can expect, because they were not able to connect the type of sex that they really wanted with love ever in the outer world. And so, in the secret world, it's got every connotation of evil that happens when love is not allowed.